We got hit with the Grand Summoner special, which means we gotta do a Should You Summon special. 2 Should You Summons in a singular video. I like to say this is a very rare thing. It's not all the time where we get 2 banners in 1 week. But this time around, we are. One of the banners, of course, being the return of the Fairy Tail crossover, and the other being the newest addition to the Ninja Saga. So let's go ahead. Get all the weebs out of here. Let's talk about Fairy Tail. So Fairy Tail is returning, which means Natsu, Lucy, Urza, and Gray are all returning to the game. And you are able to summon all these characters again. Not only are you able to summon them, you are also able to grind them to luck 120 if you manage to actually obtain them. So let me start with the one that I think is the worst, Natsu. Now, why is Natsu bad? Look at him. I mean, artwork, animations, okay. Everything about him, he's alright. You know what I mean? That's kind of the whole thing about him. I wouldn't really say he's bad. It's just more so Natsu is the I character. The main flaw that I have with Natsu is the fact that he scales off of burning. If an enemy is not burning, he just loses so much damage potential and it sucks. Granted, if you can constantly inflict a burn onto the enemy, Natsu hits extremely hard. But if you're not able to consistently proc that burn, then it's just whatever. You're mainly using them in most situations for either the burn or for the 100% defense ignore, or maybe both. There are some fights where he really excels in, and other fights that he just falls off extremely hard. And yeah, in terms of team play, the only thing you're really getting here is just the 100% defense ignore, which for some people may be enough. But you know, there are other characters in the game that are able to give their team 100% defense ignore. But if you don't have one and you want to pick up Natsu, he's not a bad one to have. It just sucks if you can't burn an enemy, because he's just going to be a defense ignore bot. That's all he's there for. Now moving on to the next character, my personal favorite, the boy Gray. They buffed him. They gave him even more. This is the best character in the game. I don't know why they keep buffing this man. He doesn't need it anymore. Emperor, get him out of here. You see who's in triple S tier right now? Gray. There ain't no. This guy is quite literally, out of all the recent units, my most used unit in Grand Summoners. This man gives himself art gauge based on the amount of luck that he has, which guess what? That means 120 art gauge. And by the way, this is per stage. So every single stage you get 120 art gauge instantaneously. On top of this as well, if you use his true art, he gives everyone on his team art gauge as well. And it's a massive amount. It used to be 50, but now they buffed it to 70 arts to everyone. Also, the modifier on the true art did get buffed a little bit, which is okay. I don't think he really needs it in most situations though. And then if you wanted to stack him in terms of the damage, you can, because he actually gives everyone on his team a permanent physical damage buff. Gray is probably the best with this mechanic, since every stage he's going to be getting 120 art gauge, meaning that you can stack this for free if you want to. Hell, nowadays, if you want to with the auto AI system, you could make it to where Gray is doing this consistently even during auto farms, and still able to pull off his true art because he's going to have so much art gauge, it's not going to be an issue for him. Overall, this guy, in my opinion, is the luck unit. Like, if people ask me if there's one luck unit that you would recommend you have, who would it be? I would say Gray. He's just an amazing character. He fits into any team for the most part, and you just support him, and he's going to do everything himself. He's just going to be there. He's going to hit pretty hard, and he's going to do a lot for you. This guy, a lot of people sleep on him, and I don't know why. He is an amazing character. If I had to rate him, like seriously, no bias, I would say Gray's probably about, in most content, maybe like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Definitely him being the luck unit really hard carries him and kind of pushes him into like a 10 for most general content in the game. I will say though, in harder content, he kind of falls off because he's mainly just a damage dealer at that point, and you may be better off using other characters like Urza. Urza is the in-game attacker from this crossover. This character is a ramping damage dealer, and she has built-in crit, she has attack ups, she has crit damage buffs. Just anything in-game wise, you can take her up against, and she's going to probably melt it. The only time that she's really hard countered is if the boss resists light damage, or physical damage, or if the boss is resistant to crits. The fact that she has so much built-in stuff into her kit means that she doesn't even need help bypassing defense or anything. She just needs survivability. So put her alongside a tank, put her alongside a healer, put her alongside literally anybody, just more damage buffs if you want to, and she's going to be able to do it all for you. And then finally, we have Lucy, which for a lot of people is kind of the character from this crossover. But I don't know. I think there's so many good options here that it's hard to say who is the best. But Lucy is the support character from the crossover, and her buffs were pretty nice. Mainly just modifier buffs and some changes to how long her durations last on her true art, which is actually pretty good, since the longer duration on the true art means that she's able to arch gen more consistently, and her art uptime is actually higher now. And she also, just like Gray, is able to permanently stack magic damage for the team. The only thing about Lucy though is that she She's really only a support for light units, so if you don't run a lot of light units, then you're probably not going to be using Lucy too much. However, her crit rate and magic damage buff may warrant you to maybe use her in certain compositions at times. For the most part, she's mainly a light magic damage supporter, so if you're not using her alongside characters like Juno or Miranda and stuff like that, you may not get too much effect out of her. And that's actually it for this banner. Now, should you summon on it? No one from this batch of characters necessarily changed the game. They were all just very strong characters. Pretty much 4 amazing characters got released at the same time. If you're newer to the game and you want to know if you should summon on this banner, I actually recommend that you do at least a multi on this banner and see if you wind up lucking out and getting Urza, Gray, or whoever else. Because if you get Gray as a new player and you go farm the event, he's probably the only luck unit you ever need. Scratch that. Even if you're not a new player, if you get Gray, he's one of the only lucky units you ever need, even as a veteran. Not to mention, too, if you wind up getting Urza, then that's a character that can just hard carry you in the damage department for the entire game. And then if you wind up getting Lucy, it's probably one of the worst characters to get as a new player. And even Natsu is kind of whatever, but if you wind up lucking out and getting Gray or Urza, that would be insane. If you're more of a veteran, though, I think it's really up to you. If you missed this crossover the first time and you kind of wanted one of these characters, then A, you're interested, go on ahead, do a summon, see what you get. However, if you did see the crossover come around the very first time and you kind of got what you want, or maybe you didn't get what you want, or maybe you're kind of over it, you don't really care about any of them at this point, then I would say it's a safe skip. Now, since we got that out of the way, let's talk about the next banner. The Ninja banner. This is going to be featuring 4 ninja characters on the banner. We have Saku, Sakuya, Tamame, and the last one, Kisaragi. What's the deal with this banner? I'm going to be honest with you. Before we even talk about Sakuya, the banner mates are kind of low value. Saku is mainly used against water bosses and water enemies, so if you're not fighting a water boss or water enemy, he's kind of useless for the most part. Tamame has very unique situations where she is extremely strong in terms of nukes, but outside of that, I don't ever see people using her just as like a regular attacker or damage dealer or whatever. Kisaragi is probably one of the characters that I have probably slept on the most in terms of the entire Ninja Saga, but she actually does give a very potent attack buff and can be used in a lot of different teams if you want the extra buffs and everything, so she's probably like one of the more usable characters out of the bunch. Now, as for Sakuya, she is a very unique character, and unfortunately, I don't think she's strong enough though to just hard carry the banner by herself, but if you do want to try to get her, kit is very, very cool. Sakuya is all about planting bombs. She can plant 3 bombs every time she uses her skill, but this can only go up to a maximum of 6 bombs. With her art, she's able to buff everybody's evasion by 5% times the number of bombs planted. So if you have 6 bombs, 30% evasion for the whole team. Not too bad. In terms of her true art, this is what activates her third eye. And just like the last Mizuki we got, she also has a true third eye state. So regularly, her third eye will just give her 100% defense ignore, and she will increase her arts by 5 per second while in the third eye state. If you're fighting a boss that is a god or spirit, she activates true third eye. During true third eye, she gets more damage towards gods and spirit by 200%. Back to her true art would deal 40,000. However, her true art will scale by 10,000% based on the number of bombs planted. So if you have 6 bombs planted, that means she gets a 60,000% modifier added on top of the 40,000%, equating to a 100,000% true art multiplier. Upon using a true art though, this will remove all the bombs that are planted, and you increase all allies' physical damage by 100%. By the way how this true art works is not a instant detonation of the bombs, from what I can tell if you see in this video. It seems like she does a little bit of an animation on her own, kind of slicing everywhere, and then at the end of the animation, she will detonate all the bombs to actually deal all the crazy damage. Now, if you want to make this even crazier, you could also factor in her true weapon. Her true weapon is going to give her more damage and reduce enemies' earth resist by 30% with its skill, but its passive is able to increase your skill CT recovery by 30% and increase the max number of bombs planted by 1. So instead of you being able to plant 6, you can now plant 7. She's really cool, very unique. The only thing I kind of wish is that there was more ways to detonate the bombs with Sakuya, and you can kind of have like a character that is just bombarding the boss with just bombs left and right, and it's just explosions everywhere, but unfortunately that's not a thing. Even though Sakuya is a pretty cool character, very unique, I don't think it's enough to really waste your crystals on the banner. I think for the most part, if you want to skip a banner out of any of these, I would say the Hero Fest Shinobi banner is probably the banner to skip. If the banner mates were maybe better, you know, we had other characters on it, it could maybe sway my opinion just a little bit. I just don't think this banner is going to be really worth it in the end. Either way, that's going to be it for this Should You Summon. That was a very long one, but hopefully you guys found it informative, entertaining, whatever the case may be. And tell me down below if you're going to be summoning on either one of these banners, or you're going to be skipping both, or what's the deal, what you doing. Let me know all that stuff down below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend check out either one of the videos popping on your screen right now. Great content, guarantee you'll love them. Oh, and one more thing, don't forget to drink water.